when I finished, I ran over and I saw that I don't know, came in, I don't even know,
sixth,
wherever I was in that heat. I was just like, oh my God, is this gonna happen right now? And then you guys were there, and Hunter's bawling like a baby into my shoulder. Drew's screaming, "Holy shit!" Hunter's like, "I'm going to the CrossFit Games." Fuck.
Good morning, Misfits. You are tuning in to another episode of the Misfit Podcast. Drew, Sherb, Hunter, on the mic, Ted on the beats, and 2021 Noble CrossFit Games athlete Caroline Conners is in the house. Yeah. I was so excited to say that. Podcast is over. Thank you guys so much.
That is all.
See you next week.
All right, we're going deep. We're going full interview style on this one. But first,
I have so many questions.
we have to do the grip
no
test.
answers.
And Ted went to the tape last week. It was actually yesterday, but we live in the future
last
on
week,
this podcast.
for sure.
It was definitely last week.
future.
And Sherb and I tied to the decimal. But what I will say is I did one and it shut off, and then I immediately was able to perform.
Sounds like a lot of
again.
excuses.
Well,
wait, so
here's the question.
his
though.
first score is 0.
I actually clean and jerked 315 in the open workout. I didn't have it on camera, but I only hit 285.
One of
in
us
the
has
reach.
clean and jerk 315. It's not you. All right. Does Caroline go first or last? Last, right?
go
Yeah, last.
Yeah.
Last?
When Cody showed up and
You know what to
broke the machine.
You know what to beat.
All right,
You
okay.
got the
Yep. Right. Here we go. He always tries to put his elbow on the table, give himself some leverage.
hamstring.
He is pretty angry today.
119 slipped.
Oh my God.
I want to let our guest win.
For reference, that is terrible.
Well, now I'm
Sherb
going to be
just wrote
super
a-
embarrassed when I
Sherb-
can't
Sherb
even do
just
that.
wrote-
It won't be terrible
Look
for
at
you.
the size of him. Sherb just wrote essentially like a 13-minute 2K, which I have done before. All right. Oh,
Only one of us have wrote a 13.
there.
My hands are sweating. I'm so nervous.
That's 600 calories per hour. Don't worry about it.
Why are you on watts for this 2K?
Oh, that was terrible. 144.6 wasn't 118.
This is so
119.
freaking hot.
Excuse you.
I'm
My
the
bad,
reigning
dog.
champion.
Well, I meant like it wasn't lower than yours.
169.8.
Wow, everyone's dragging today.
Hold down.
Good luck, Carol.
You're
Okay,
laughing.
is
May
there-
the force be with you.
Is there a trick to this?
Yes, you have to go.
It's whoever's facial expression and sound effects are best.
Do I hold
Just don't
there?
poop.
Like that or like this?
Like that.
Like
Yeah.
this. Oh, shit. Okay.
One
I'm
aggressive
super nervous.
squeeze. Hold. Wow.
Oh, thank goodness I didn't lose. I saw the number
Try your
already.
left hand. My
I
left,
saw
my
the
left
number. I
hand is
didn't
better.
lose. Thank goodness. To someone who's got a hand that's half the size of mine.
Me?
Well, yeah,
I tried so hard.
that's how I feel every week, Caroline. Every week I try so hard, it doesn't get any better.
It was just under Drew's. All right. What's the first question?
Try your left hand,
What?
real quick.
I can't do anything with my left hand.
But
That's what she said. All right.
Okay. Can I use both hands? Uh-oh.
Yeah, you can use both hands.
Oh, she was in kilos. That's why.
it was better, right?
Should get 120.
Lefty stronger?
Oh, 120.
Solid 113.
I saw 125. All right, face down.
I think I just strained something.
Pooped.
It's tempting to immediately go to the weekend recap, but we've got a bit of a story to tell here. You started at CrossFit MF in 2013 or 14?
October 13.
October of 13, and your beginner's coach was,
Sherb.
but the first time you came in.
First time I walked into the gym, it was, I don't know, probably like noon. And Hunter and probably Sherb, Gabe were in the gym like working out or something. So I went in the office, was talking to Gabe a little bit, told him that I wanted to sign up. I tried CrossFit like with a friend when I was down in Florida, and then was just doing the whole Planet Fitness thing for a while and wanted to stay in shape but also like be around people, and most importantly, not get too bulky.
Don't want to get bulky.
So-
Your background was running and cheerleading, right?
Oh my God, you thought I was a runner? That's so sweet.
Or well, you ran a little bit, right? Or maybe not.
I ran
She
like
had ran before.
She's running her life. Yes. She had,
I
she had
ran-
her life.
past a walk.
I ran daily to like lose weight, but I was never a runner.
Okay,
So like I just like
Same.
yeah, I was.
but
just
that
running.
was like your fitness.
yeah, like Planet Fitness
yeah.
and running. But yeah, no, I was a cheerleader from first grade until 3 or 4 years out of high school.
Competitive.
Yeah. Yep. So I competed with a local travel team out of Westbrook, and then took a break when I was like doing the whole college thing, and then they did a college team, and that was hilarious. We realized that we were all too old and couldn't do anything.
That's how I feel in CrossFit Gym every single day.
But yeah, so I signed up there, and then I went outside, and Hunter was like, "You trying to work out right now?" And I was like, I mean, I didn't know what to say. I was like, "Sure." I was in jeans, so I had clothes in my bag.
Running jeans,
Hunter's shirtless. You want to work out?
rubbing his belly button.
So
Got Coors Light in his left hand.
I'm pretty sure I did like, I don't know, set
You
of 5
think that
back
was
squats
weird, but that was every day.
and like a running and deadlift workout. Hefty first day.
Now, at what point did you
All right, you're
know
gonna do
that?
this Texas method back squat and then run deadlift.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize that it was also a sport and not just a place that you could exercise? Like, when did that kick in?
That'd be the open. right?
God, I don't know. I still didn't fully understand what like the open was, what the games were, or anything like that. I remember signing up for the open and watching, like, I don't even know who was trying to go regionals that year, like you guys and all that, and seeing how like important these scores were and whatnot, but it didn't really click. And then seeing you guys compete at regionals, I think that was when I was like, okay, this is pretty cool.
And that was the year 2014. You guys both competed.
Yeah,
correct?
I remember her being in the gym in 2014. And that's when Hunter had to unfortunately move away after qualifying and try to figure things out. But yeah, I remember you coming down as part of that group.
I
that was
actually
wearing-
have a memory that popped up this morning from that regionals.
That was the year we did the original
Look at
purple
that.
Misfit shirts with the Batman font.
That was like
Gave
one
them
of
away
the
at regionals.
That was like one of the 2 photos I was trying to debate between when I was making the like beginner to CrossFit
think you picked
Games
the right one,
post.
Yeah, I think you did. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. And then even then, I didn't want to. I wasn't like, ooh, I want to do that. Really.
So it was still like oh, this looks like fun. Oh, we're competing. Like I have a little competitive bug, but it wasn't like, let's go.
Yeah, I think that year or the following year was when I did my first competition with Erica.
Yep.
Higginbotham.
Botham.
Botham. A 3-2-1.
So I sort of remember like coming back from regionals and like people obviously taking the time they need to like decompress from the stress of training like that. And then I just remember like Gabe, Austin, and I would work out in the afternoon, and all of a sudden you just started hanging out and wanting to work out with us in the afternoon.
Yeah,
That's kind of what I remember.
Yeah, there was a big group like Alex, Morin, and them, and I asked, I was like, is it okay if I also work out a little bit? And there was a couple people that were like, I mean, if you really want to, sure.
That sounds about right for the time.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
So I just kind
I don't
of
know.
stayed in the back.
I don't know. Can you?
I stayed in the back and then slowly crushed their dreams.
Can confirm.
It's kind of funny, like that. Actually, I didn't think about it now that you mentioned it, but CrossFit 321, and for the listener, is just a local gym in Maine as well, and they were at semifinals this year.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of a interesting full circle. First competition at 321, and then you
Yeah, that's
qualify
right.
for the games the same year they're at
So
semifinals.
Ginny's my good luck charm, apparently.
team was team at regionals 2016.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that right? So what happened between 2013 and 2016 that got you to a place? Because we sort of know the story after that, but like, how did you go from I want to work out here to, oh, these guys are doing more stuff on the weekends or, whenever, to then like, let's go team?
God, I feel like there's so much that happened in between. It's hard to like pinpoint when it really started to get like real for me. I just remember like the more I worked out with you guys and the more I kind of found out like just through working out with different people that I was like, oh, I'm actually catching up to people that
Right.
are trying to be competitive and I may have a real shot at this. And then seeing like Austin and I think Jordan came up the next year or that year and just kind of going through like mock regionals. I think that was a big turning point for me. I don't think I did it one of the first years, but the next year I did it, and overhearing other people say things like she might be a regionals athlete this year or an individual this year. I think that kind of put that idea into my head that it's possible. And from there on out, I was just like, okay, I want to be the best one here. I want to be on the team. I think that would be like, this would be so much fun helping them, but I don't want to be a weak link for any of them. And I want to be like the best on the team.
That's a funny story too, because when we were figuring out that we had a team, we were in Dubai at a Misfit training camp, and so we woke up one morning and you're like, hey, guess what? You're going to regionals. And we're like, what?
I remember waking up and seeing the
out.
leaderboard and being like, what?
Sherb was like doing burpees like on the beach.
I started eating salmon and doing burpees the second I found out.
And it was funny too, because of course we were like egging him on, like he was trying to play it cool, like he wasn't excited. And he was like,
excited.
are we going to go work out now? Are we going to go work out now? Are we going to go work out now? Which he does anyways when we're traveling.
Almost every day, actually, in my life.
For people listening that don't know what she's talking about, we used to do something called mock regionals every year because there were so few opportunities to really compete and see where you were at outside of open regionals games. And if you didn't qualify for regionals, then that was sort of it. So we used to put on an online competition just so people could see where they were at and compete against each other. And it was, I want to say, 75-80% misfits, but it was always cool because other people knew that they could sign up and thought that
That's
they
how
could,
Roy got started with us.
sort of show up and kind of throw down. But the team thing was this massive turning point. And I think I've told you this story before, but when we went into it, we sat down and said, okay, who could possibly be on the team? Because Cody failed 265 squat clean in the ladder the year before and missed out on qualifying for the CrossFit Games, and then failed to even qualify for regionals the following year. Now, spoiler alert, he qualified for the games the next year, and the rest is history. But when he didn't qualify, his scores sort of fell down into the general pool, and we were able to put a team together because of that. So we sat down and we talked about who could possibly be on the team. And out of the people that were sort of invited to come practice, Caroline was lower down on that list prior to team practice. It was like potentially out of the 4 people that were there, the 4th person. And then the day that those team practices started, something happened. There was this like fire ignited in you. And we all know what it feels like to do those partner workouts and sort of get that boost. But you were like the most impressive athlete like that day. I don't know if you remember at all what that was like, but your transformation we only had like a month maybe.
I'd say somewhere between like 4 and 6 weeks, at most 6 weeks.
And we did what, 1 practice per week?
Yeah, we tried to hit on Saturday after post our Sweaty Saturday, our free class. We tried to say, all right, guys, we got to get together because there are things we've never done before, like synchronized movements or just styles of workouts.
Right. And it like you went from like when we ended up making the decision, it was like, well, obviously Caroline's on the team. And like, I don't know how much you remember of that, but like, what was it like to go from like, oh, it would be cool, it would be fun, to then like, I think that really set the tone for
Let's go, Sherb.
everything. I think that set the tone for
Come here,
everything
Sherb.
that's
Put
happened
this over your
since.
head.
Yeah, I do remember. I remember it as a whole, like very specific moments. I remember, but I can't like pinpoint like what was going through my head. I just remember that being like one of the most. That was like the biggest turning point for me as an athlete, and I think part of that comes from. I've always been a team athlete, whether on cheerleading teams. I never did any of the solo sports. It was always on a team. I played softball for a couple years. Terrible at it. So terrible at it. But I was always like on a team. I never wanted.
You've never seen me throw. God,
Can you throw a ball better than Hunter? I want to know. We got to get that on video.
Is there
after
anybody
this.
that can't?
you haven't even either. There's
So-
no footage of me throwing.
I have
anything.
footage
I've seen
seared
you-
into my brain.
I've
of
seen you
the
throw a
old
football
gym and
through a
you throwing
ring.
a football.
Yeah. Sorry to
And
derail
throwing
you,
a
Caroline.
clip into the
Allegedly.
fire alarm and getting the fire
Allegedly.
department called.
Could you outthrow Jason Kalipa?
Ooh, it's not that bad. We got to draw the line somewhere.
Fair. Sorry. All right. Sorry, Caroline. Go back to your story. Team.
Anywho, yeah. So I was never the type of person that wanted people like looking at me at all. I was just kind of like, I wanted to do as much as I could and be like the best at whatever I was doing. But I wasn't a huge fan of like, oh, look at her type thing. But having you guys specifically like overwhelmingly show that you believed in me, like that was huge. And I think that was the push that I needed to be like, oh, I can do this. And there was just like, it was a lot less nerve wracking. I didn't feel all the pressure. And I don't know if it's because you guys are very laid back as far as that. Like you're not like on top of your athletes. You kind of just, you say what you need to say and help as much as you can, but it's never been like the spotlight is on you. You know what I mean? And I think that's why I thrived on that team, is because I knew I was doing really well, but it was never like, oh, she's the best. You know what I mean? And I didn't go into it with that mindset either. Like I wanted as a team, everybody to succeed, but seeing like I PR'd my snatch like 18 times during regional sprints.
I was gonna say that
And-
between you and Max, that the amount of growth that you two had on that,
It
that
was
training
crazy.
was just monumental. I mean, I really do think that was a Kickstarter for your individual performances and Max to get there as an individual. But like I do remember those sessions, and it's just like I thought a few weeks ago, like would she even be on the team? To like she is clearly the best person on the female side on this team, and probably the best athlete overall for this team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super competitive, and I'm very much like a watch and then do type of person. And I think that environment that I was put in just helped me so much. You know, watching you guys, seeing the other girls, knowing that like, hey, you have to do this kind of if you want your spot. And I apparently do pretty well under pressure.
I'd say so.
Apparently.
I doubt. Nah,
So
I don't.
So the actual experience itself as a team, from a coaching standpoint, like anyone who listens to this podcast, I've talked about it a million times, but it was just, I was so beat up mentally. That was the first time that I traveled for like an entire month to do all the regionals, and it was the last one. And of course teams, you know, they're like, at the Granite Games, they like work out when it's 1,000 degrees in the sun. And then, you know, back in the day at regionals, it was get up at 5 a.m. and do your workouts. Mm-hmm. And I went into it thinking like, oh, here we go. And then it was one of the greatest experiences like of my life. What
We
was
did
it
pretty
like?
good too.
You
We
did.
came in like 11th or something as a team.
I think we came in 11th out of the 30 teams, and I think we were the last team in as a result of like
Yeah.
Cody's score dropping us into the qualifying spot. So, I mean, I think we all surprised ourselves. We went there with like the idea of like, hey, we got here by accident, have fun, but you know, also not do terrible, and did pretty well overall.
2017, you qualify individual
Yes.
for the first time. What was that experience like going from team to individual?
It was different. I remember going into it a little nervous, but kind of just like, I think a lot of my focus was on Austin because that was his goal first.
Right.
And we were there, like we had just started dating that year, actually. And so it was like super cool. We both qualified, and I also get to like be there behind the scenes and support him. But I do remember after the weekend, I was like, yeah, this is where I need to be. Team
And you
versus
were-
team. Team was great. It was super fun, but I think I want this.
Right.
I want this as an individual.
And you were middle of the pack, right?
21st.
21st.
That is correct.
Yeah, 21st.
That is correct.
Fuck.
You did it to yourself.
Yeah, dog.
Was that what year? What year was that? Was that when the
17.
run
17.
the run chest to bar?
Yes.
That workout, that moment, I think was when like the light bulb went on, and I was like, holy shit, I'm doing well next to these high level athletes. Can I be better?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, because you go like almost everyone except for me at this table has experienced this, but like you go and there's a bit of like, I'm out here with these like professional athletes, and you have to have those moments of, am I here to watch other people exercise, or am I here to do what they're doing or do it better than them?
mm-hmm.
At what point did you cross over from like, I made it to regionals to like, I'm trying to do something bigger? When did you let yourself entertain that idea?
Honestly, last year,
Okay.
I think. I mean, if I'm being really honest, probably I don't know if it was after Brazil, because I was never really like showed up like, oh my God, there's so and so, or oh my God, there's that person.
Hunter
It was
Wood.
just like,
There's Hunter Wood.
yeah, no, not you, the other guy, the other Hunter Wood.
Fuck.
Sorry, same name, different guy, much better looking.
God damn it, your face, idiot. I know it's the roast of Hunter Wood today.
I did.
I've been waiting for this moment my whole life.
One shot.
Yeah, no, I mean, Brazil, I was in it to do the best that I could, but looking back now, I don't think that I was there to qualify for the games.
Do you
Going
Sorry, go ahead.
into Atlas Games, I didn't give a fuck who was there. I was going in just as fired up as I was for Granite
Right.
Games this year. So I think training towards Atlas Games last year was when I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it.
Do you think that had to do with like, because people also have to kind of keep in mind the timeline here. So your first individual regional was when the sport shifted from however 20 some odd regionals to super regionals. So now there's fewer spots. It's objectively more competitive. Then the sport kind of takes a flip or gets flipped on its head, and now it's sanctionals. There's a lot of like, okay, I got to go here. I got to peak there. This is the best chance for me to qualify. How did you, I guess if you're saying you weren't like fully geared towards like, I'm going to qualify for the CrossFit Games in Brazil, but maybe at Atlas, do you think that the season structure, like, did you like lose any like motivation, or was it like, fuck, like I was just getting into my groove with this format and now it's a different format? Like there was a change this year too. Like, did that impact you at all? No,
I don't think so. I mean, it was in my head, I was a little bummed out because up until last year, my open was like, the open in my mind was the only way I was going to qualify. And I think when I got that idea out of my head, I was able to put way more effort, focus, like myself into training for that goal. So honestly, I think it benefited me a little bit because I wasn't so hyper focused on the online leaderboard.
And it was 2018, right? That you were pretty
gypped.
high up in the open. Yeah. But that was like, that was a year that you were kind of pushing. We were like, oh, the open, like that's the route, that's the route for Caroline to qualify, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But 2018, we still had regionals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
then it
maybe it was
was
19.
19 was the year for the wall ball.
Now, before we skip too far ahead, 2017, you and Austin start dating.
2016.
2017 regionals, though, is when Austin misses qualifying for the CrossFit Games by 0.52 seconds.
Correct.
Did you take anything from that? Like, was there anything? Was that like an experience that you had with Austin? Because I know that like for him, 2018 was much more disappointing than 2017. In 2017, he was like, whoa, I didn't know I was like capable of that. This is great. So even though it could have been heartbreaking for him, it was like a sort of a validating type moment. Do you remember what that was like? And did you take anything from that for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those weird situations where like you look at it one way and you're like, holy shit, I was that close to qualifying. Like, that's amazing. And then on the other side, it's like, fuck, I was that close to qualifying.
Right.
And let me tell you, I see and hear 0.54 everywhere I go, between passwords and shit like that. Don't try to log into anybody.
I made these little note cards for him with the picture.
I swear it's written on like corners, like just random places.
Is it 0.54?
Something like that.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was 5.4 or 5.2.
No, I'm
but
pretty sure it's 0.54 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. Like you are super proud of how far you've gotten like that. I know for him, I think it was one of those moments where like leading up to that point, he was like, oh my God, this could happen. And then again, obviously facing the disappointment of it is kind of shitty, but I don't know. It's hard looking back now and thinking like what you were feeling in the moment, because it's just like heartbreaking, especially like watching him go through that. Like just, it's just a terrible.
Gut-wrenching,
Yes,
yeah.
it's gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
But
from a coaching standpoint, it was one of those things where you really have to start to play the game of looking at points and what they mean. And a lot of the stuff that we talked about this weekend comes from me, from experiences like that, because Austin, we were having one of those moments where he was going into the kettlebell deadlift workout.
Handstand walk, yeah.
Yep. And, grip was an issue for him at that time. And he was like, I don't want to screw up my chances, so I'm going to kind of play it safe. And then he got done that workout and knew that he could have gone harder. And then obviously what happened. He actually, the funny thing about the final is he fucking crushed the final.
He sure did.
The event before was what happened, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
And it just teaches you a valuable lesson of playing it safe in competition has essentially no meaning unless you're like up by 500 points and you don't want to hurt yourself. It doesn't, there's no place for it, because the point system, we'll get into the point system here when we talk about Granite Games, but like it just does not help at all to ever play it safe. You're going to get a similar amount of points if you bomb out as if you play it safe. So
it's also something I thought about. It's especially important on the front end of competition too, because if you're somebody who gets seeded, maybe like I'm sure you would have wanted to have been in the third heat all weekend. You started the weekend in the second heat, and then, pretty quickly moved into that third heat. But if you start there, like those are the people that you want to be racing against. You stack points up. You get those points early, and you can secure your spot kind of in that heat, which doesn't give you room to make a mistake, but it ensures that there's a smaller chance that you do, because you're kind of held accountable by that higher level of competition.
The idea that you're playing a sport against someone not at the same time is very odd.
Yeah.
Like getting yourself into that top heat is so important.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I was where I was for day one, because that, her name, Bryn, I don't remember her last name. But she was cruising the whole time.
Yeah.
I was playing her race. I was racing her the whole time, and ended up in a fourth place spot.
Right.
If I had been in the other heat, which I'm not sure what the leaderboard like shook up after that one, but that could have bumped me down even further, and it could have been even further at the end of the day.
Yeah. The top time in heat 1, you were over a minute faster than that. So you would have potentially been able to absolutely crush someone and still end up in like 10th or something.
Right.
So
even if I was in the last heat too, though. I mean,
we talked about that yesterday on the podcast. Mallory ran people out of that event. Like there was 29 other people doing that event. Like she was doing something different. Just being able to handle the dumbbells and run at that body weight is kind of a sort of a crazy thing. Okay, so Brazil was 2019, correct? If we get our timeline right.
Yes.
Now you at that point had already reached a level of fitness that is at least in the same ballpark of the level of fitness that you have built since then to get to where you are now. What changed from Brazil to the rest in peace, not Atlas Games? What changed between those two spots for you to be able to go out and potentially use the fitness that you had created? Because that's, for everyone listening, probably already know this. It's not as easy as it sounds.
I think confidence, really. Going to Brazil, it didn't turn out how I wanted it to. I think I was in ninth. I didn't do terrible, or ninth or 11th, one of the two. But it took a while for me to realize, when you think about it in our sport, you get essentially one chance to play with everybody, and then that's it. And so the concept of you need experience was
where do I get it?
Want experience. It's going to take me 5 years to get all the experience that I need to qualify for the games. And I think that, and then eventually I realized holy shit, it's already the Open again. The time passes much faster than I had in my mind. And one huge deal for me in Brazil was the swim row workout. I think I was top half on that. And for a swimming and rowing workout, I was pumped. So kind of checking off each year, different events, different, weaknesses, things that I was afraid of. And then I think I kind of got to the point where I was well, there's nothing now that they can throw at me that I haven't done already, and that I'm going to be nervous or intimidated about. And so I remember training up for Atlas Games. It was just just fucking do it. Don't be afraid of what the outcome is going to be. You're doing it now. You need to do whatever you possibly can, whether it's a weakness or a strength of yours. And it sucks if I'm doing it alone, but I've come to a much better place mentally with getting comfortable with pushing myself when I'm not training against anybody else. And I think that made such a big difference. Because it's hard to tell, am I really pushing myself here, or would I be able to push even harder if I had somebody next to me?
Right. And
so I think I just had a lot more confidence in what I was able to do, whether it was something that I was actually comfortable with or not. And I was ready to just show everybody that I could.
All right, Misfits, just a quick break. Shout out our show sponsors. Hopefully save you a little bit of dough. You can head to sharpentheaxeco.com. Use the code word Keala, Keala. You save 10% on your order of the best gear in the game, and then we donate that same 10% to the Keala Foundation. We are talking on the podcast today about the Misfit Athletics athletes at the semifinals, and that semifinals collection is live right now on sharpentheaxeco.com. We try to do our best as a company to support these athletes when they're out on the road, and that's hotels and food and plane tickets and all that good stuff. And when you purchase this gear, this semifinals collection, you make it a lot easier for us to provide more and more and more support. So you can head to sharpentheaxeco.com and again, use the code word Keala to save some dough and to support our athletes.
We are also brought to you by Pure Spectrum CBD. You can head to purespectrumcbd.com and use the code word Misfit to save on any order. You heard us talk about the episode today. We were on the sidelines coaching, some athletes through this weekend. And even though we weren't exercising, my recovery went into the absolute garbage can. I think it's a combination of being up a little later than I'm used to, as well as the stress that's, revolving around coaching. So Drew actually said in our last podcast, one thing that really helped him was getting that tincture, underneath the tongue. We use that Black Label tincture, which is 2,500 milligrams. I started putting it back into my routine yesterday, and I did see an increase in my recovery. So again, if you're looking to get all you can from your sleep, help you recover better, you can head to purespectrumcbd.com. Use the code word Misfit when you check out.
Speaking of recovery, properfuel.co for your proper fuel. Basically what turbocharged Caroline through the event had nothing to do with absolutely anything else other than taking proper fuel between events. No, just kidding, obviously. But one of the best tasting proteins I've ever had. Mixes super well. Seven wonders of the universe with respect to the ingredients that are mixed in there. Also probably worth noting, Caroline, not somebody who necessarily likes whey, but the digestive enzymes in there help make sure that she can get that protein, the carbs, the creatine, the leucine, all of that stuff in, so she can recover and continue training. And even if you're not qualifying for the CrossFit Games, I take it that 2 to 4 scoop game, depending on what the class workout is.
Drew did say your arms look huge today.
He did say that. She did say that.
I mean, I got the hair. Yeah. The beard could be alarming, but
fair enough.
Whatever you're into.
Properfuel.co. Use the code word Misfit to save on your first order.
it's one thing we haven't addressed in the podcast, and because we live in the future, we did not address in the podcast, is Caroline is both a coach at Misfit Athletics and an athlete at Misfit Athletics. The programming that she uses as a tool in the affiliate to really influence other athletes and coach them to be the best that they can be. You know, she coaches the three of us, and we use teammisfit.com. That's the programming that we do at our affiliate. It's got a competitor extra in there if you're on that fence of I'm an affiliate athlete and I'm trying to make that transition. So whether you're an affiliate owner or whether you want to go bug your affiliate owner and say, hey, you know, these guys are producing great athletes, can we get in on that? Teammisfit.com or the SugarWOD marketplace. And then we do talk a whole lot about Caroline's success as an athlete, and she follows misfitathletics.com and specifically follows a lot of that stuff that people sort of push off to the side, like the fasted cardio, like the skill work, like the accessory stuff. So if you want to be like Caroline, you can head to misfitathletics.com or the SugarWOD marketplace and try it for 2 weeks for free. All right, back to the episode. All right, so we have to hear the Atlas Games story from your perspective, because obviously we roll around to 2020 and you're ready to rock, and then COVID-19 hits and a lot of things shut down, but not the Atlas Games. The Atlas Games didn't shut down.
They didn't. Those darn Canadians.
So what happened?
So, March 12th, 2020. My
3
birthday.
p.m.
There I was.
my
Neck
birthday.
deep. Hold on.
Austin and I pack our things, drive across the border, get to Canada, go shopping, go to our Airbnb. Everything's great. Somebody sneezes, the world blows up. And we are like, I don't even know if there was like the idea that this could be a possibility, and then it was just like everything hit.
Wrong.
So seriously. Otherwise, like it would have been like, should we go? Is this gonna happen? Is it not? It was just like, yep, we're going. Great. This is gonna be the last event, and then the world is gonna shut down. We were wrong. So wrong.
We weren't wrong. They were wrong.
So we get there, we go to the venue, we're checking in. We take our photos, we get our shirts, we get our athlete stuff, everything done. And then we start getting text messages and emails like, hey, we are possibly working through some issues with the competition. We may have to make some adjustments, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, like they said, there weren't
Cool.
going to be spectators. Like there were things like that started to get rolling. This
Yeah.
is all her entire story is in one day.
Yes, one day.
That fateful day.
Yep. Meanwhile, Austin's mom and a few of our gym members are on their way up. They get there. Drew is pretty much there, just circling around trying to find a parking spot. So within the hour of Drew, he's still trying to find a parking spot. In that hour of him parking, we finally get like a message, like basically a giant red mark, go home. Like I start crying. I'm like, what the fuck? This is stupid. Are you kidding me? Like we already did this. We were literally about to leave. We were about to walk out the door for our brief. And then they sent an email. They didn't even tell us at the brief. They just sent an email saying that it was canceled. So sorry. Also, by the way, we can't refund you anything. So icing on the cake.
She hasn't forgotten.
Yeah, haven't forgotten. No, I think we got maybe half of it back last week or something. No, I'm not mad. I'm not mad.
We didn't get that Airbnb back either.
So, yeah, that happens. Don't even see Drew. He just turns around, drives home immediately.
At least you didn't park.
Were you actually there, or was that a thing? Are you lying?
I was sitting
You never were in Canada.
I was sitting outside of the Airbnb, and was texting back and forth with the person who owned the Airbnb. And I was like, there's no parking. And they're like, yeah, the parking kind of sucks, but you can try here, here, and here. So I went to all of the places that they recommended, and I wasn't going to be able to stay there for more than like an hour or two. And I assumed I was just going to leave my truck there for basically the weekend. So I'm driving around trying to figure this out. And Greg is texting me, who's friends with the guy running Atlas Games, and is like, we're going to shut it down. And then I start like looking at stuff on my phone, and it's like Canadian border potentially closing to US like residents or whatever. I'm like, no offense to our friends up in the Great White North, but I'm good. So I try to, it's like, how long's the drive there? 7 hours ish?
Something like that. Yeah.
7 or 8.
Yeah. So I drove there, and then I drove around in circles, and then I tried to drive back.
Nice 15-hour car ride.
I tried to drive back in the middle of the night, and I got, I don't know, 3 hours back, something like that, and ended up staying in this sketchy motel in Canada, and went into a few grocery stores that were like full on time machine-esque.
Like Northern Maine?
No.
Get a Bud's shopping safe?
Not northern Maine, but like southern Maine, like 10 to 15 years ago. This is just like, it feels sort of like a time warp in certain spots up there when you're not in the actual city itself. So, I mean, yeah, that was lovely. You ended up driving back the next day because of it, right? Because you guys were going to stay at the Airbnb and just have fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand they wanted it to go on. They like really, really badly, that badly wanted it to go on.
Badly enough that every other event in the entire world was shut down.
Yeah. I mean, they did
Games.
everything they could, and, you know, it was for the best. I ended up getting a margarita and a stomach ache. So it was
Basically
great.
the same weekend you would have
Yes,
otherwise.
happy birthday. But no, Austin and I stayed the night, and then
That'll come full circle too.
walked in the rain to go get him some bagels and a pair of Lulu pants, and then we drove home because we were afraid we were going to get stuck. These Lulu pants
So
now have a hole in them.
all's well that ends well. You have qualified for the CrossFit Games, and obviously a lot took place between the Atlas Games and Granite Games. But one of the things that I want you to touch on is your training. You sort of thrived during the pandemic, during the lockdown. Like the amount of Concept 2 monitor photos that I received during that period of time. Like you just sort of rode that and weren't willing to let something derail the headspace that you had created to go with your training.
Yeah, no, I pretty much was just like, fuck that. I'm not gonna. One of my biggest fears as a competitor, and I'm getting over this, and I might be over it, but in the past, one of my biggest fears, and this is one of the big reasons why, like you guys know, like, are you gonna take a rest week? Are you gonna like go eat some ice cream? And
Our
I'm
hamstring is sore from a workout today.
and I'm like, yeah, I'll take an hour to enjoy myself.
Rest
Nice solid hour.
But I don't make myself miserable. Like I actually enjoy it. Anyways, one of my biggest fears, like in the past years, is that I'm gonna just stop riding the progress train, and like I'm at where I'm at, and like what happens if I go down? So like deload weeks, off seasons, it terrifies me, like truly. And I've gotten better at that, and like I think I did a much better job this year. Kind of enjoying myself, you know, on, you know, weekends, and saying yes to a lot of things that I would say no to, just being like a happier person overall. But yeah, no, when that whole thing happened, I was like, fuck that. We're getting a bike. We're doing whatever I need to. And we had Zoom classes that we ran for the class, or for the gym. So I was the morning coach. Morning class ended. I would get on the bike, and I had 3 or 4 women from our Wyndham gym who had Pelotons, and we would Zoom together and spend 45 minutes 3 days a week biking. So I was on the C2 bike. Actually, a couple of them were on the C2 bike, and then I think maybe 1 or 2 had Pelotons. So after I think like a week or 2 of that, I was like, oh, this is freaking awesome. Like I feel like I'm doing enough, but I wasn't killing myself in volume. You know what I mean? So I'm also the type of person where like if I sweat for 30 to 45 minutes and it's like a good workout, like I feel like, okay, I've done enough. I don't need to do 17 pieces a day, which people will joke about, like, oh, all you do is work out. But like, no, if I get a good piece in, like, I feel good about myself. Like, I'm good for the day. I can move on. And during that time, and as I started to see my improvement on the bike for the standpoint of like a 5'1" meatball, I think I was doing a pretty good job on that thing.
You it took you 2 weeks to get your splits lower than mine, and I'm glad that I beat you in the grip test because I didn't like it.
2 weeks?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah, so I started, and I think then I kind of realized, like, I was also staying strong and fit in other areas of, CrossFit. And I think I kind of like knew, all right, this is what I needed to get better at. I'm just going to keep rolling with it.
So there were 2 pretty big changes this year that you made leading up to actually preparing specifically for semifinals. And one of them was you trusted me to essentially delete most of your strength work.
Yes, I did.
Well, what was that like for you? I mean, I knew that it was the right direction for you, but when you have the mentality of someone who's capable of doing what you've just done, and you just talked about, not wanting to get off of the progress train, like, what was that like for you, or was it easy?
I think because I don't know if it was how you approached it or what, but the way that you brought that up to me, it was just kind of like, oh, he thinks I'm strong, so I can back down a little bit. I was like, all right, let's go. I wasn't like, oh, Austin gets to back squat and strict press. Like, I can strict press that.
You mean his weight?
She did mean that. Yes.
I had to try really, really hard to beat Caroline by a 1 pound and a 5 rep max strict press.
You did? Like, actually?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh,
adorable. So yeah, no, I was like excited about it,
So just for the people listening, the concept isn't, mind blowing, but it's not just about the fact that it's not a total volume thing. It's about, if we take those 2 conditioning pieces and we put them on an island, you think about the sort of mental and physical focus that you can put onto something like that. We would do things like easy EMOMs with snatching and the skill that she missed or something like that outside of it. But it was like, okay, here are 2 conditioning pieces, put all of your focus into that. And if there's anything left after, like, you can kind of do your thing. And then we would always make sure that during test week, you got to at least try some of the tests that were in there and prove to yourself that you were still maintaining your strength.
Mm-hmm.
Other change, your schedule definitely changed. Like, we are used to, in the past years, we are used to seeing you here every second of every day. And it is this like frantic push to get this job done, coach this class, get this piece done. Like, it's so much stuff crammed into, the day, every single day. And then this year it was, if we saw you, you were probably coaching and then training, but there was a different mood to it. There was a different energy surrounding all that stuff. What did you do in your, personal and professional life to allow yourself to make that change?
So I knew, and this kind of all came out of the shutdown. I knew that I was overwhelmed with jobs, whether it was being here from start to finish, or just being here and then staying here to get things done. And I thought that it would somehow keep me, I don't know, maybe more focused if I had like a timeline, like, okay, I have to get this done or I don't get it done. And that was bad. That was bad. And I think when I had the opportunity to come back to coaching and my hours shifted a little bit to just do mornings, and then I realized that I was able to sleep more. Like, instead of 5 hours, I could get up past 7 hours, which doesn't sound like a lot, but for me, that's been.
Oh, it sounds like a lot.
It's been enough. What?
That sounds like a lot.
7 hours?
That's a huge change.
Well,
5 to 7.
5 to 7.
Oh, yeah,
is a
yeah.
huge
No,
change.
big change.
Yeah.
But most, other people are like, you can only get 7 hours of sleep. That
Yeah.
sucks.
die.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm dead.
So, and then I kind of got into the mindset of like, I need to do everything that I can. All of those little things that we talk about and we tell other athletes they need to do, I need to do that as well if I want to make a push to actually go to the games. Recovery wise, like just mentally, and I'm sure everybody that has been around me over the last 2 years has seen a pretty significant difference in my mood. Which looking back makes me so sad that I was miserable for a while and didn't.
But that's a super important point because we talk about that a lot with athletes who are like yes, you, especially if you want to compete at the highest level, you have to have the infrastructure and the support structure to help. But part of that support structure is being the type of person that other people want to be around. And like you, and rightfully so, any competitor who's ever like really wanted something has experienced like, oh, I had a bad training session and therefore it's going to impact me like, you know, for a couple hours or the rest of the day. Like that's frustrating because you don't want that to happen. You think that's a perceived like, oh, I worked against my goal rather than toward it. So, but you made like a massive shift, and probably one of the second most, aside from like actually putting it all together, like the second most thing like I'm mostly impressed and like proud of from your shift from, you know, a year and a half, 2 years ago to last weekend.
Yeah. I mean, it's layers, like the stress layers up and it builds up and you don't realize it in the moment, but like that's the difference between something bad happening to you and you being able to bounce back from it, and something bad happening to you and you being able to talk yourself through it in the moment and after. And that has been something that I've been working on a lot. And I think even just from, I think the biggest change happened from quarterfinals until last weekend, being able to like be okay with what's happening and know like this isn't happening because God wants this to punish me. This is, you know, happening so that I can take it, use it for something else and learn from it. And that was honestly like I know it was not a great moment competitively over the weekend, but that fifth event, like I talked to myself throughout the entire thing. And like before I would be like, what the fuck? Why is this happening? Like, this is stupid. Why can't I hit the target? Why is this happening? And I was just like, okay, well, and going back to Austin's regionals experience, like every rep counts. I just need to get as many reps as I possibly can because it matters. And then the talk that we had beforehand of being able to, like, whatever happens in event 5, whatever happens with those wall balls, you have 2 minutes and it's gone. It's gone. It's disappeared. You're not thinking about it. You need to put more focus into the second piece and just crush it. And I did.
You sure did, for sure.
You sure
did.
Despite some bullshit, you did.
Yeah.
So we get to pandemic is still here, but like eventually we're allowed to come back into the gym. And on the occasions where, you know, everyone was sort of together in the gym, so like these little like whispers inside conversations about you exercise. And it's just like, how fit is she right now? We just kept like saying it to each other. We're watching.
Yeah.
And it was the same impressive feats physically, but then the body language during your transitions and you getting almost, you could see momentum being generated in a workout. Whereas before, and for so many athletes, the idea of generating momentum as your energy goes down seems backwards, but you seem to like feed off of the workout. And, you know, the craziest one was the testing the sled push event. It was like, you were going from the muscle ups to the squat cleans to the burpees and out to the sled. And I was like, is she bored? Like, what is happening right now? Like,
I was bored.
Oh yeah. Hunter decided to keep up with Caroline in round 1.
Hey, you beat me to the sled on round 1. Pretty close.
Did I?
I don't know. You tried.
I think I beat you to the barbell.
You tried. Congratulations,
Because
you
your
tried.
rings were so much
closer.
closer.
Congratulations, you tried.
Did you feel that happening in those moments? Could you tell that you seem like an entirely different person while you were just doing daily training?
Yeah. I don't know how to really explain it.
Well, you sort of have already. I mean, you people were well aware of what you could do physically, and then, a little bit of a break from the insanity maybe taught you or nudged you into a more like balanced lifestyle, which then allow you to put those two pieces together.
Yeah. And like throughout workouts, that one specifically, I remember just thinking like, oh, this is fine. Just keep moving, keep breathing. And I talk myself through breathing through every single piece that I do. I count my breaths. I count my steps. I'm basically counting something throughout every single workout. And I think that kind of keeps me in check. I'm never like, this fucking hurts, because I'm too focused on the finish line. I have checkpoints that I think about, like throughout that longer class workout we did the other day. Austin and I jumped into class the other day. And it was a 15-minute workout that I felt could have been 10 minutes long. But anyways,
Could have been 4 minutes long.
As we're
going,
I try not to like stay focused on the clock or anything, but I do have, checkpoints where I'm like, okay, I'm 5 minutes in. I have, 3.5 rounds in. I just have to do 7 more rounds and I'm good. And I check it off.
Just 7 more.
5 more rounds and I'm good. Like I check things off, and it makes it a lot easier for me to push through it without like quitting on it at all. Stuff like that.
Do you suspect, kind of like going along with because it was noticeable when we got back in the gym, it was like is this the year? Like, is this gonna happen? Like, do you think it was, I'm sure it's a combination of both, but do you think because you also weren't necessarily the most comfortable on machines before that, and then the pandemic hit, and that was a lot of your training. How much of that do you suspect like contributed, just as far as like getting comfortable, being able to, like, for you, you have to go harder than a lot of other athletes who are just physically larger than you to keep up with them, which means your fitness and you need to be able to you need to go harder than them and then recover faster than them to beat them in the workout, right? Mm-hmm. How do you think that like, how did that improve so drastically over like the year?
Honestly, I just embraced it as much as I could rather than like dreading it. So every row piece that came up, every bike piece that came up, in the past, I would be like, oh, I need to try to stay as close as I can to Paige and Kenzie. Well, Kenzie's on the other planet when it comes to machines, but
yeah, for sure.
And then when that mindset kind of shifted to, all right, well, I don't need to be close to them. I can be at their level or even better if I want to be. So I just embraced it and took every opportunity that I could to get better at it, try different things, take risks, go out hot, go out slow-ish, figure out what I needed to do. And Chris helped me, one of our coaches here. He helped me last year or the year before on rowing, and it made a huge difference as far as being able to hold faster paces without panicking and without going so fast that my heart rate is just through the roof and then I stop. And I saw a big difference there it was a short row, but I saw a huge difference at the Granite Games. Like that row did nothing for me in that workout. And
he also said you were like the only one who looked like they knew what they were doing on the rower. So no,
yeah, pretty
no offense
cool.
to anybody else, but he was like, it was noticeable. I just overheard the conversation yesterday. It was like,
and then quarterfinals, like the 120 calorie row, like sure, thinking about it, I was like not a huge fan, but I wasn't
combined
like afraid.
With your second favorite movement.
I wasn't in my head about it or anything like that. So I think just like knowing that that stuff is not going to go away. I just have to get better at it if I want to be where I am.
So we had a bunch of conversations. Sherb, you talked about the Roy trying to get 1% better at certain things. And as remote coaches, we are always looking for those little things. When you get through an entire season, the idea of an athlete going back and not adding anything in and just doing what everyone else is doing, I think is hard for both the coach and the athlete to wrap their mind around. It's like, okay, I got to this place, but we're going somewhere else now. I want to go do something better. So how do we do that? And those things in the last handful of years have made their way from remote coaching onto the blog. But I think a lot of people, because it's not the typical meat and potatoes of, you know, here's your lift, here's your conditioning, interval, you know, strength work, whatever, they think of it as an afterthought. But when I put in your sheet, here's your fasted cardio, you know, here's your heart rate work, here's whatever, you treat it the same way that you would treat any other piece. And that's where the slight edge comes from that separates you from other people. So just for everyone listening to this right now, it's on the blog, and we are always thinking of new ways and new places to put it so that you see it and so that you care more. But the fasted cardio and all these different things that we put out there, those are the things that take an athlete from good to great. And you've always been the kind of athlete where it's like, this is what you want me to do? Like, thumbs up. I got it. I'm going to do that. So, you know, right now I'm essentially campaigning for people to start doing those things, but I don't know if you have any other thoughts on it, because it's so important, and yet it's hard for us to like slap it in the middle of a training day for it to be exactly what people want.
Yeah. I mean, you get up and you do anything and you feel better than not doing anything. I mean, that goes for the morning movement. If that's where you need to start because you have 5 minutes before work, do it. But the fasted cardio and the intervals and the running and the combination of that and some strength work and gymnastics, it all goes back to experience for me. And I can go back to pretty much a day and a time where I did a workout and tell you exactly what I did and why I'm thinking about it in another moment. And it just, that the experience of being able to see improvements when, you know, honestly, there are days where you're like, fuck, I have to get up early and do this, but you do it and it's worth it. Like those were some of my best days. But having the experience of the longer pieces specifically, like nothing's going to get worse than that, to be honest.
No, I think it's really important there. The athlete IQ you just referenced, that something Hunter talks about quite a bit on these podcasts, is helping an athlete understand, like, you're just not just doing the piece and going through the motions, but you're trying to gain something from that. And you being able to do a piece and then call upon it later is super impactful. And I really do think what separates, you know, the casual exerciser for someone who wants to be competitive is that you are able to call upon that information. And I don't know if it's always been just something that's up here or something you've written down, but like, I really do think that's an important point to emphasize, is that, you know, a lot of athletes just work out and then mine is blank next day, mine is blank next day, mine is blank next day, instead of carrying it over. Is there something is that how you started with your exercise? Is there a certain turning point where you really started to hone in and latch on to those important pieces and saying, all right, I can now use this for later on?
Not that I can remember. I feel like that's just how my brain works. You know, I really, when I experience something, like I really do, like wholeheartedly feel every second of it, whether it's good, bad. And I think that has just allowed me to, you know, go back during, you know, hard workouts or even experiences and be like, okay, well, I've experienced this during that moment and I felt like a turd afterwards. How can I handle it differently? Or what can I do differently to gain momentum from it versus, you know, cry for 2 hours about it. So I do think it's really important to like focus on each piece as you're doing it, look back, think about it, whether you need to write something down or if you can just pull different things from your brain. Like that's typically what I do. I mean, I do journal, which helps, but though being able to kind of look back and, you know, think of everything that you've done is for a reason, and you can pull from that and pull from it. It helps a ton, you know, when you're moving forward and trying to improve in certain areas.
So the next part of the conversation is unique because this is a topic that I've wanted to cover for a very long time, but I sort of have felt like my personal demographic doesn't make me the right spokesperson for it. We went pretty deep on the mental side here in the last handful of months and had some conversations that, I've tried to have with other athletes in the past, and it's a level of vulnerability that's very challenging for a lot of people, because if we're talking about something that's wrong that we're trying to fix, you're saying out loud, like, this is wrong about me. How do I move forward with that? And that's not easy for a lot of people. And we're not going to like have the personal conversation on the air right now, but I think it's really challenging. I hope that it's getting better. I think maybe from an optimistic standpoint that it's getting better, but there's something very different about being competitive as a male than being competitive as a female. And you and I talked about the permission to go there, to go to that place where you are competitive. When we're all hanging out and we're lifting and doing whatever, and Sherb and I and Ted, Hunter too, for hockey, like grew up in locker rooms. Like there's a lot of shit talk. There's a lot of I'm fucking better than you and all of that, and that's cherished. And you fan it with air and you really build that up in a male, and then a female does it and the B word gets thrown around a lot, and this person is this and this person is that, and it's honestly even a dumbed down version of how competitive men can be. So for you, what does that mean? What has that journey been like? Because a lot of what just happened this past weekend was you allowing yourself to go to that place of, I am a strong woman. I do go out there and kick people's asses in workouts, and like I'm allowed to feel that way.
Yeah, it's been hard to not only like express those types of things, but kind of distinguish between like what is okay and what do I feel like is not okay. And there's been moments in the past where I've been upset over a workout, or been upset over how how things fell into place, and visibly was upset in front of friends, family members of the gym. And like looking back, it was one of those moments where I was like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be somebody that, people walk into the gym and they're like, who's that? Like, what's her deal? And it took a lot of those moments for me to, kind of realize like, that's not who I am. That's not who I want to come off as. It's not the person that I want to be, especially being, one of the coaches here, and that's been here for 7 years.
Forever.
Yeah. And so I pulled back a lot on that feeling, a little too much, I think, to the point where I was almost afraid to let that out again. And, during the open and quarterfinals, it was just that aggressive competitive person that I needed in certain moments wasn't there. And then you and I talked a little bit, and I kind of felt like I had permission to be that person, in a different way. And that it was okay to be competitive and to be that strong-willed individual, in these moments where you need it. Like you have to be a competitor. And then from that moment on, I was like, all right, she's back.
Well, and that the previous version of it was still held down in a way, and I think that's why it came off to certain people the way that it did. Like for me, I've been involved with sports in my entire life. I knew what it felt like when I did not do what I wanted to do, and I acted certain ways during those periods of time growing up because of that competitive nature. So seeing you get, visibly upset over something like that, to me, it was like, okay, we can rebrand this, but that energy needs to be there. You need permission to be able to express that energy. And now that it's a bit more out in the open, you're able to express it in the way that you want to. And we just had a whole lot of fun in Minnesota.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of it came down to me being afraid of certain things and certain outcomes. So going into, and then you and I have talked about that a little bit with the flow chart of emotions.
Yeah.
Looking at something and feeling like afraid of failure already going into it. And then that competitiveness and all of those feelings coming out after it didn't matter anymore, rather than rebranding it and using it in the workout and being willing to push and use that energy towards where I need it to. It was like, oh, I need this to be over. This is horrible. What is happening? And then just crying.
So we did an entire podcast yesterday about our perspective of the Granite Games. What is your perspective of the Granite Games? What was that experience like for you?
When was that again? The entire experience was incredible. I mean, I know like people are a little bummed there wasn't like a long, super, I don't know, exciting, not their exciting long workouts, but the workouts were on the moderate to short side and all of this. And why were you guys working out at 10 p.m. and blah, 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 blah. But as a whole, the experience was like honestly better than I could have imagined. I mean, we were working out late, but it allowed us to not rush, not wake up and like be like, we need to be here now. Like we were able to just chill out. And if I'm being honest, I had nerves once during that weekend. And it was Sunday morning when I woke up.
That makes one of us.
Sunday morning when I woke up. It was a totally different experience for me as an athlete, being like both as how the competition was run, but how I was feeling. And I think a lot of that had to do with how just like relaxed it was. They were on time, but they weren't like rushing anybody. There wasn't anything that went wrong or besides, a couple of random point issues, but it was just like relaxing all weekend. And then when it was go time, it was like
go there and choke
you have a
slam
3-hour window where you need to perform and then you get to go home, go to bed and wake up and do the same thing. So,
that's one thing about Loud and Live coming in and putting on events is the people who run that organization from the CrossFit side have been involved with athletes. I mean, the president of the company was back there with athletes forever prior to being in that role. And you can tell that they care more about the athletes than some of the other people who put on competitions. And there's something to that. I mean, you hear about like, the whatever the Lakers play at 7 p.m. and LeBron strolls in at 1 or 2 p.m. and starts this routine and that routine. Like you were treated like in that moment, you were treated like professional athletes. Like you are here to perform this thing. And then, it's sort of your own deal. Whereas in the past, so many competitions have felt more like fitness festivals, like
right.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
There's been competitions that we've been to where it does just seem like almost like they are trying to put on a show and we're just kind of like there as
like look at our competition,
puppets, you know what I mean?
Look at the athletes.
Right. And I mean, it's kind of counteractive in my opinion, because what Granite Games did this weekend allowed us to put on a show.
Yeah.
They did everything that they needed to do. And we felt like we were ready. Like we were out there, like it was our time. And the announcers announced, the judges judged, like that was it. They did such a good job.
Yeah, it's funny. The moment that just popped into my head is you went, you couldn't get permission from dad, so you went to mom. I told you to go back into the locker room and like take a cold shower and hang out for as long as possible. And I'm standing next to Sherb and he gets a text from you that says, "Can I come out now?"
And I told her, not yet. You gotta wait one more heat.
Which I thought was funny. And it just makes me think of you
Showed him
finally, you finally getting you finally getting to go somewhere and not be rushed through this certain thing. Like, you knew every single event. 40 minutes before you went over and told them you were there, 20 minutes before-ish, you went into the corral.
Yep.
And that's sort of, I don't know, like routine type thing, fits into what an athlete does. And if you are an event promoter, you want the best product out on the floor as possible. And that's how you elicit that.
I was just going to say, you have to, even if you are trying to create the best experience, you make sure that the people everybody's going to be watching are in the best place possible to put that show on. And I think, I agree. We talked about it yesterday, how just and it's only going to get better, how close so many of the heats were and stuff like that. It's like, that's exciting. That's what people want to see. And it helps that, you know, kind of live CrossFit is back and that sort of thing. But when you come back after a hiatus and set the bar really high, like, you hope that it only gets better and better than like that. And it starts by making sure that the athletes are like, the only thing you have to worry about is throwing down.
Yeah. The simplicity of the entire weekend just made it honestly the best competition that I've been to.
Yeah.
I sort of feel like there were two competitions. What was your favorite part from Friday and Saturday?
Favorite from Friday and favorite from Saturday?
Do one of each, because that was your question. I know it.
What? That was my...
Never mind. I thought you had one of each, and you were asking permission.
You answer it any way you
could.
want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, do whatever you want.
Honestly, okay, Friday, my favorite part was coming out and watching you walk towards me saying that you got fourth in a fucking running event. And like that, I was just like,
I just like
Thanks,
it's like the moment. It's like all of the work. It's like an unveiling of like a painting.
Yeah,
you've been
and
like
like that's
working on so hard. It was like looking at that. Like Hunter and I are, you know, crunching the numbers, and Hunter's writing down everyone's scores from every heat. We're like, you do this. I think she's, dude, she in third, she in fourth, she in fifth. Dude, I think she's in, like, you're coming back. And like there were a lot of people there that, like, you know, you have like, someone comes up to you and asks you, how is so-and-so going to do in the event? You're never not going to say this person's going to do well, but I think they can gauge based on your enthusiasm or how much you say. Right. Yeah, she's going to do good. But like, I was very enthusiastic specifically about how you were going to do in that weekend. And you can see people calculating in their brain and like whether they believe what I'm saying or not, or like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, I'm sure, whatever. So, for all the Happy Gilmore fans, a few people walked up to me after that event, like immediately, and I said, somebody learned how to putt. And it was just like, I wasn't blowing smoke up your ass. Like all of this stuff that I'm talking about took place in the off season, and now.
Yeah, I mean, that was anybody that asked me, you know, prior to going, like, what are you most excited for? And my response every single time was, I am the most excited to see how much my work has paid off in competition. Like I truly wanted to see, like, am I just like being overly optimistic? Has everybody else also improved this much or put in as much work? Is as much work that I put in enough? Like, and that starting on day one, taking that risk. Thank you both for making me snatch 170 to open. Like,
oh, Jesus.
I should
have heard those conversations.
I was like, okay, all right.
You threw out 155 there at one point, and I was like, Caroline, listen.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, like the theme of the weekend
that wasn't my first rodeo. There was no 155.
Yeah. Being a little vulnerable, but like believing, like I truly believe that I can do this. And like over the weekend, looking down at my arm and seeing the I am the best written, which Austin is trying to convince me to get tattooed, and it's not going to happen. Sharpie works great.
Make sure he writes it too, and just make sure it's his handwriting.
I got a misspelled tattoo if you want me to design you one.
Got you.
Perfect. But no, like that was the perfect way to start. Two workouts that I was terrified about. Like you guys saw me before we practiced that thruster. I was shitting bricks. Terrified. Austin's like,
that was weird. Yeah, I'd never seen you like that in the gym before.
Don't know what happened. But yeah, no, that was how I needed to start it. And then Saturday, sitting on the rower, and I don't know, one of you, I think it was you, told me that I was in fifth. I was like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
That moment, it like sunk in. I was like, oh, wow. Because that was my goal. I didn't say that to anybody, really. It was like just in my head, going in ninth from day one. And I asked you guys, I was like, am I still in contention?
Yeah, you were like, am I screwed?
Can I still do this?
After the snatch, you were like, am I screwed? And you were like, nope. Like,
yeah, I am terrible at leaderboarding. I don't know what numbers mean. I hate to look at it.
That's why we're there.
Yeah. So I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
And then, so going into it, I was like, all right, it'd be sweet if I could go into day 3 in a qualifying spot. And that moment when you told me, I was like, fuck.
I could see your
Team
excitement.
Carol.
I could see your excitement on your face.
I got the story from that same conversation 24 hours later, and it was slightly different, but carry on.
Wait, continue.
It's
When I was-
day 3, when
Yeah.
you were still in 5th going into the final.
Yeah, we got to continue. That story has two parts.
That's what I
for
mean.
Sure.
So
Ah.
we'll continue
Yes.
with so Saturday. That's the best, or Friday. Those are the 2 moments. Was there one on Saturday at all,
That
or
was-
was that
that was
Saturday
Saturday.
was
Yeah,
the
yeah, that
that
was
was
Saturday.
sliding
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
fifth
What were
place.
the workouts on day 2? The muscle up,
sled,
sled,
the
and
sled, and the handstand walk at night?
yeah, that was an okay day.
2
Just
7th
okay.
place finishes.
Day
Day 3.
Sunday morning, you referenced how you felt Sunday morning.
Yep. So over the weekend, no matter how much, like when I woke up, like if it was in the middle of the night to pee or woke up to get up out of bed, that it was like once you're awake in that situation, at least for me, my heart was just beating to the point where like I was like, cool, I'm up. Like I'm not going back to sleep. But it didn't feel like nerves. I wasn't like overwhelmed, like sick to my stomach type of nervous. Sunday morning, I woke up and like I'm in 5th place. I look over and Austin's sleeping. I look over at 6:05 in the morning after going to bed at
You were
12:30.
not allowed to be awake at
Yeah,
that time.
no. So I put my sleep mask back on and tried to lay down. I think I did fall asleep for another hour or 2. I woke up again. Fuck.
I'm
For
still in
anyone,
fifth
for
place.
Still in
anyone
fifth place.
listening to audio, her eyes pop open.
Eyeballs
massively.
pop open.
Yes.
Sits up.
So I stand up, go downstairs, get coffee, sit down. I'm sitting. Fuck. Still in
Eyeballs
5th
pop
place.
open. Still in 5th.
place.
Hasn't changed over the last 30 minutes.
Yeah. So it kind of started to sit in with me that I was in a qualifying spot to go to the CrossFit Games. And that was what that feeling is what would have been terrifying was like, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
I need to do whatever I can. Like no self-sabotaging, no, I'm afraid, so I need to steer in the opposite direction. Like, oh, this is good enough. Cool. If I get 5th on day 3 and then hop down a couple spots, still did good. Not great, not my goal, but I still did good. Like, oh, good for you.
Yeah.
And so I texted Paige. I was like, I am going to need to FaceTime you later. I am so nervous. And she was like, go be around everybody that makes you, take your mind off things. Just you can do this. Like, you know that you can, I believe in you. Everybody around you knows that you can do this. Just try to use those emotions in a way that's going to push you through those workouts and you'll be fine. And so she kept sending me photos of like, I don't know, giant cats.
That's the secret, guys. In
Yeah.
case you were wondering.
And when I say
photos.
giant cats, I mean like lions and tigers.
House cats.
Oh, God.
Giant house
Yes.
cats.
She sent
I
me
was really hoping giant
Kids.
house cats was
Yeah.
going to do it.
I sensed some energy. We were in the lobby.
Yeah.
Everyone was in the lobby. Other people who were at the competition were in the lobby, and I was sensing the energy. And one thing that I think is important advice for all competitors, when people who care about how you're doing in a competition, people that love you are there, there's a really good chance that they're going to give you bad advice. But what they're saying is, I love you. You're great. You're going to do well. But they don't know how to say that because they haven't been coaching CrossFit for a decade. So it was like,
No matter what
hey,
happens,
Caroline,
I'm so proud of you.
why are you
Like-
sitting? You shouldn't be sitting. We're going to go in the gym and walk on the treadmill. And then we got on the treadmill and I'm like, okay, and there's no more noise now. Like, it didn't have anything to do with you sitting. It was like everyone telling you the story of what your day was going to be like. And I could tell that it was like, okay, we're going into the hotel gym now. Gonna make that
I did
move.
give myself like a 10-minute window to be nervous. And then, I don't know, what were we laughing about? Can we say it on the air?
Probably not.
Sure.
We normally can't
What were we
say.
laughing about?
I mean, you told Ted that if you qualify.
sleepwalking.
Oh yeah.
Ted,
Oh my God.
Ted
I wish
sleepwalking.
Austin was here to tell
Oh
this
my God, I
story.
wish he was because he was genuinely terrified.
We were talking. I was talking about how
The
like,
people were
Ted-
being super loud in the hotel room.
It was
Or in
loud. No. It was just that like I didn't like. I woke up like I was like nervous like for you just obviously wanting you to do it, but I was like, fuck yeah, I didn't sleep super well, and like because Ted was up late editing, like he was sleeping hard and snoring loud.
Yes.
Doesn't sound like him.
And I was like,
Lies.
I don't remember what the link was, but it was Austin just like immediately like perked up a little bit, like he was, just sitting normally, and then he like became very rigid and was like, could you imagine Ted sleepwalking and like could you imagine what he could do to you if he was like
about a hypothetical?
He would do everything that he could do.
He would do everything that he could do
and
when
not
he was
have a
awake,
conscience
but not care. Like Austin was very nervous.
How long have you thought about this scenario? And then
I don't think he thought about it very long. It was just instantaneously.
It was like a moment.
Yeah, it was like 10 years of
and
every
all of a
interaction
sudden
with
it's like
Ted
he looked like he'd been sleep deprived for 20 years, being like up at night thinking about Ted sleepwalk snoring
Maybe he has been
to him. But when he was telling, the thing is, when he was telling this story, I'm imagining it in my head. And you have also suddenly grown like 17 feet. So I'm watching you
Ted
walk
is now
down the hotel room.
lumbering through a thunder and lightning storm that is somehow inside the hotel hallway.
And then it somehow circled to Ted being drunk. I think you said like, well, that's kind of how he is drunk. And he was like, yeah, to be honest.
Now Sherb's
You'll
scared.
find out that test
over here.
It was
To be honest, I was very nervous after regionals in 2018. We were out. That was the year, right?
What's that?
After regionals when you and I chugged up, had to chug off for 18 ciders.
17.
That was 17
when
the
Cody
year that
qualified.
Cody-
Yeah.
Fuck, I'm still hungover from that day. God, it was terrible.
All right. So we go into day 3 competition, and you get sent out on the competition floor with the directive of composure in an event. Like normally you're talking to an athlete. What is the way that you get the best possible score out here? I need you to do this. This is the amount of sets you're going to do. You're going to go over here. You're going to do that. And the theme of they want, little Carol to throw a 20-pound ball up to a clear 10-foot target in the wind on a
lane
on a Dolomer mat.
This is no excuse, but in a lane where the sun, and as I was warming up, I was like, somehow that sun is going to end up in my lane. Sure did. Wasn't a huge deal, but it was there.
So you went out there and you had what I would consider the performance of your lifetime, and you came in 29th place in the event. What was it like experiencing that while you were out there?
Honestly, there was a little bit of back and forth, like, okay, this is not as bad as I thought. I could do sets of 5 and still hit the target, whatever. And then I started hitting it, but just like hitting the glass or whatever, plexiglass, but not hitting my number.
Your judge was
Right in
fair,
the
but he
center.
was strict.
Yeah.
Very strict.
And so I was like, I maybe I'm going to have to do like one pause so that I can make sure that I hit higher than I'm hitting now. And it was just like very inconsistent. So I was a little frustrated, but then I would just breathe. Okay, I have to do what I have, like what I'm able to do. I can't quit. I can't just get frustrated. Like nobody else is around me. I'm getting lapped by Ariel. Whatever. And like, I looked at you guys. You told me I was okay. I said I was okay. And I just chipped away at it, knowing like there's no miraculous way I'm going to go faster and get a better place where I'm at now. But I could sabotage myself, get frustrated, and bomb the next one too. So like as I was going through the wall balls, it's once I got through them, I tried to hammer the GHDs and do what I could to get back to it. But I think there was a moment in that workout where my focus shifted to do what you can here, but you need to start letting that go away in the back of your brain and focus on what you're about to do.
we don't have these conversations on this podcast all the time about your attitude outside of the gym, your attitude inside of the gym, your attitude out on the competition floor, because we want to be preachy, because we want to say, like, look at us, this is what we do. We talk about it because of how important it is. Without the attitude that you brought into that, based on how much you've changed in the last year plus, you wouldn't have been able to qualify for the CrossFit Games if it wasn't for the attitude that you had while you were handling adversity within that moment. And that's why we have to talk about this stuff. And that's why, you know, I have to write the musing where it's like, yeah, I know, but I still have those conversations all the time with people. They want to know, like, how many muscle up sets do I have to do to become the best in the world? And it's like, I don't like your attitude. Like, anytime you're faced with something that you don't like, you act like a baby. We have to, like, figure this part out before we figure that part out. So for you to go out there and do that is just, again, another way for us. We say it all the time. It's why we talk about athletes who follow other programs. When you set an example like that, we get to bring it into the podcast and say, see, like, this is why we talk about this.
Especially having, like, two very different stories over the last few years. Like, if that had been me 2 years ago, it would have been a totally different ending. And it's not something where, like, you can just say, like, hey, you need to keep your composure out there. Like, it takes, like, skill. You have to, like, believe that you can do that and not let it affect you. And you have to do that over and over and over again. It's not just something that you can, you know, say out loud or say, like, okay, he says I need to keep my composure, so that's what I'm going to do. If you haven't experienced it and aren't, like, working on it daily through different experiences, like, it's not just going to magically start happening.
And you, like, again, kind of for the listener to think about the timeline, it's not like you, like, learned on the floor, like, oh, you're going to throw to a 10-foot target. Like, that was the night before when they did the athlete briefing. And, like, I kind of was like, did they? And I remember you asking, they were like, did they just say we're thrown to a 10-foot target? And it was like one of the last questions an athlete asked, and we were like, can you please verify that women are thrown to the 10-foot target? And they were like, yes, that's correct. And, like, I was super, that was also a moment that I was like, this is going to be okay, because you were like, yeah, that's going to suck for everyone. Like, oh, that's going to suck. But your attitude, like, that night was still, it was the same as, like, the attitude from the previous night, which was, the competition's over. Now I'm going to, like, enjoy the night and kind of decompress a little bit with the people. Like, you were still, like, laughing, and, like, there was no change despite what, again, like, a year or two ago, in one of your least favorite movements, hey, and also, like, you practiced it in training to a 9-foot target because, like, and I guess shame on us, like, we assumed that would be the standard, and, like,
sorry to everyone following the blog in 2022.
Yeah,
you're getting some 80-pound balls to a 19-foot target.
You were sad about the 10-foot target, but it was really cool. It was really impressive to see, because, like, we knew, I think everybody in our heads knew, like, oh, like, here it comes. But at the same time, it was about like, to blow. It was like, no, it was like it was just like, what's this response going to look like? And it became pretty clear very quickly that it was going to be just like, yeah, I'm going to keep doing what I've done all weekend, which is do the absolute best that I can. And, you know, maybe this one I'm not trying to keep up with the best or not trying to set the pace, but, like, I'm here to work. Like, I'm here for, you know, a qualifying spot, not just for fun.
And it was a replay in reverse order of quarterfinals. So quarterfinals tripped up a bunch in event 1 with the double unders. And then the question was during the break, essentially, do I do this again right now and then do event 2? Like, how are we going to handle this? And it was like, okay, the best revenge for event 1 is murdering event 2. We are going to come back and do this again in the same day. You went out and absolutely crushed event 2. And then again, these moments, it's not always about the leaderboard. You did way better in your second attempt of event 1, but the gas tank wasn't in that same place anymore. So you did that again and did a tiny bit slower.
It was the exact same time.
Oh,
yeah, it was the exact same time.
You finished your set, looked at the clock, like not tired, and we're just like, oh, what the fuck? Like, and I was
it
like,
didn't add up.
yeah.
But your
It did,
attitude and composure there, those are the types of things that you have to grasp onto.
Yeah.
When you're in training, when you're in a moment of, that's a pretty, for the level of athlete you are, a competition like that is pretty low risk. So it's like, okay, I was able to go do that again. Like same exact workout. I have to do this same stupid workout
Like
again.
3 hours later.
Exactly. And like, turns out doing that workout twice with the rope climbs isn't the easiest on your upper body. So even though the double unders were way better, it was there. So again, it's not that stuff takes place long before you're ever asked to do it under the spotlight. Event 6, you crush, come in second place. I will ask, that was the only time that you had to work out both in the heat and under the sun. What was that like for you going into that next event, knowing it was short, knowing you had to really push in it with that big thing in the sky?
Thinking about it now, during the first part, I was like, it is hot. It is humid. I can't breathe. Like the air is thick. And going into the second event, I didn't even think about it at all. I don't know if it's just because like I had less time to think from, taking breaks on wall balls or what, but yeah, it was brutal. Like I don't know honestly how those poor teams did it every day. Because it does make a difference, like for sure. Yeah. It's not why I couldn't throw the ball to the target, but it was kind of miserable being out there in that heat. But yeah, no, going into the second part, it didn't even think about it at all.
You're like turning the Terminator in the second part.
Every single second, every step over, I was like, this is my games ticket. This is my games ticket. This is my games ticket. And it's kind of cool when you feel those moments where you're like, all right, I'm going to need to break. And then you don't. And for me, it kind of goes back to the open when you told me, when you feel like you want to or need to break on double unders, don't, and see what happens. So, and I go back to that a lot now, like in training, just in general. Like, okay, do I need to break? Do I want to break? How about not? And just go. And that got me through the step overs without having to stop. And a lot of people were uncomfortable holding the D ball and trying to do it different ways and worrying about their grip. And in my opinion, that was a step over workout for sure. And yeah. I knew that like I could not stop moving.
Yeah, I think for people listening, one of the safest places to try that is on a machine, because you have that data directly in front of your face, and you're faced with those first moments of, this is the pace that I wanted to hold, that I was pretty sure wasn't like super aggressive, but now it's hard to hold it. And then it goes from it's hard to hold it to the doubt starts to creep in and I can't. And those moments where you decide not to listen and go anyways and realize that like a little bit harder sometimes is easier mentally than like going a little bit slower and having that panic moment of, oh, I suck, I can't hold the pace that I want to. Like, you have to have those moments in training. Again, just like the mental side of things, you have to have those moments in training to decide that you're going to keep going, because the jig is up. Like, people realize CrossFit hurts, and it still hurts when you put the ball down and then pick it back up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, with that type of workout, all I'm thinking of is this hurts, but it's going to hurt for less if I go faster. Like if I just get it done, like I'm not going to hurt for as long. In some instances it works. Some instances it doesn't.
I was going to say, you have to caveat that by saying you have to be really fit to make that happen.
Exactly.
Well, that's just the way that I look at it.
No,
if I go faster, I get done sooner.
We're going to need 4 pairs of sunglasses, Ted, to talk about the final here.
Dustin here.
So we won't get into like ultra specific details, but you're in 5th place going into the final.
Wait, can I preface this?
Sounds like you're going to.
This is
okay. All right.
Do you want it?
No. Do you want to take this moment away from him?
So Caroline's in 5th going into the final, and then she's not in 5th going into the final. There was a score adjustment that pushed her into 6th place going into the final. Luckily, from again an attitude standpoint, she was like, well, now I'm just more pissed off and going to do better in the final. So we had checked that box off, but something had happened with judging with someone who had finished behind her in event 6. And I'm perfectly fine with saying magically now, like I said to the head judge, they magically decided that person would have gone faster than Caroline, even though she didn't. And she was stepping over slower and her transitions were slower, but doesn't matter now. All's well that ends well. So she's going into the final in 6th place. Just a little extra fire there. Just a little more like, oh, you think she would have gone faster than me? Like, watch this.
Yeah.
So we go into the final, and this was actually the first time in competition, and something that I think you'll probably learn from a little bit is you were going into it and you had 2 people and you had to know what lane they were in, who they were, what color shirt they were wearing, that sort of thing, because you were really honing down on playing a sport against someone specifically. What was it like to go out there and compete against specific people versus like, I just want to get the best time?
There was a lot going on in my brain until we started, and then there was a lot of nothing, like just kind of go. I didn't see anybody. I mean, Christy was right next to me, so I knew where she was relative to me on the rope and all of that stuff. And then I saw tie-dye go to the dumbbells.
It was easier for us just to say tie-dye.
Yeah, first.
Easy shit to pick out.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, well, I knew I had to push the devil's presses. Devil's presses in quotations.
Yeah.
Clean and jerks, dumbbell clean and jerks. And so I get going. I kind of see her move on through. And there wasn't really a point where I was watching and like, oh, this is it. Like, she's going to do it. And I think that is what made my performance successful.
Thank goodness.
It was,
Hunter,
yeah.
Hunter
I mean,
and I were
makes
asking
one of
for
us. Maybe-
we wanted you to put a cape on and fly from the rope to the end of the finish line. That's such a good moment. It's on camera. You telling us.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah.
That wasn't going to happen.
Hold on a
I
second.
knew it was going to be a bad idea. So like there was, I don't know, probably a second where I had seen where she was and like, wow, if she pulls this off, like I know what I'm feeling right now. That's very impressive if she can finish this out.
This is when she's like
Lunging.
moving forward toward the
Yep.
lunges. Yeah.
And then 0.2 seconds later, I completely forgot what was happening. And I start lunging. And then I put my dumbbells down. I start lunging. And I look over and I see her behind me. I had no idea that happened. And then I hear Hunter and Drew to the other side. And again, I know how I'm feeling. I know how those last couple lunges, and there was a 0% chance I was going to fail those lunges. No fucking way. I knew where the 2 people were that I needed to get ahead of. And when I felt like it was a good time to go and push it a little bit, I picked him up. And even the last step was like, I had to keep saying in my head, like, this is your games ticket. If you unlock, if you go too fast, if you stumble, like it's not happening. Like that's it. I knew that if I failed, she was going to finish. And then I stepped, and then as soon as I started standing up, I knew that I had gotten where I needed to be and that I was going to beat who I needed to beat. But even still, like, again, I suck at leaderboarding. I suck at points. So like I wasn't.
You're never
I wasn't
entirely sure, even if it's like
And it's also like if you admit that the
the
ghosts aren't in the house, they might be mad at you that you said they weren't there.
Yeah.
You never.
Yeah. So when I finished, and I ran over and I saw that I don't know, came in, I don't even know,
Sixth.
wherever I was in that heat. I was just like, oh my God, is this going to happen right now? And then you guys were there and Hunter's bawling like a baby into my shoulder. Drew's screaming, "Holy shit!" Hunter's like, "I'm going to the CrossFit Games." Fuck.
Oh my goodness.
And then like it felt like an eternity where we were just sitting there, which like it kind of sucks. The only thing that was really shitty about the end of that competition is that when you are top 5, nothing should be shitty, but when you are in that spot, like they're like, don't touch anybody. So it kind of takes away from like the celebration. So like you guys snuck in a hug real quick and got my shirt soaked.
Maya was texting me like, why didn't you give her a hug? What's wrong with you?
I have no emotion.
Yeah. But I mean, it's still, it was, it's still surreal to me. Like I go back and I actually cried yesterday again, real quick I watched the video and just like that feeling. And I think this is the first time where I'm like, I'm just so fucking proud that I did this and that I put in the hours, and like every single thing that I did was because of this reason. And that's just really, really cool to have that moment.
Yeah, the end of that race, I was when you were going in your heat, I was at the opposite end of the field trying to get Roy ready for his final event because he's in the top heat, the men. And the second they allowed him to get in the corral, I fucking hightailed it to the wrong side of the field where you were rowing, which made no sense. Realized I was in the stands and I didn't need to be. Ran around the football field to the end, and basically just as you like crossed, you're just getting to that finish line. And fuck, my eyes started crying just out of my head. I just I couldn't do anything about it. I knew that I'm a relatively emotional guy, but like literally could not believe what you had just done. And I was pretty certain that you were going to the CrossFit Games before the math came like and finalized. But like fuck, I could not believe the composure you had after having such a terrible way to start the week that last day. I know how excited you are. I saw when we told you on Saturday night how fired you up were. I saw the fist pump when Hunter told you were in 5th, and I knew the excitement there, and not knowing like how you'd respond on Sunday, and to have a very difficult start, rebound, and then be like, it's literally a lunge race.
Take less than 2 minutes to rebound, and then
it's a lunge race to decide whether or not you get to punch your ticket. Like, man, that was just one of the coolest
exactly
events.
how I pictured that day to be. I don't know why, but I was like, I'm going to the CrossFit Games when I go to Granite Games, but I know that it's going to come down to the last event. And all I kept thinking was that the final at the games with Cara and Tia. When they were
lunging.
Yes, lunging. And I was like, that's going to be me. Not as muscular and with all the mom power as Cara, but pretty close. If I could be anybody, it would be you, Cara.
It was, yeah.
Sure. But yeah, no, like it was in my head. I was lunging in slow motion, like every step.
Fuck, everything about that event was in slow motion.
ETA 5 minutes, 7 p.m.
Yeah, it was quite an experience. Like we joked on the podcast yesterday, like people asking you immediately to pick your favorite child. Like, how does this stack up for you from a coaching perspective? And it was just like the culmination of working together for the amount of time that we have, how the weekend went, fighting through adversity on the wall ball itself, which has been a thing in the past with the open score adjustment and all that, and me sending a video to HQ with the tape measure and being like, you fucking people don't know what you're talking about, like there was
ghosted,
getting ghosted from that, and then the score adjustment, and then the final being
ghosted on that. We didn't get ghosted. They were just
like, we always talk about how the men's race is always so damn boring because almost every year it's someone's in the lead by X number of 100 points. And, I don't think for the rest of your career you want to be fighting single reps for that. But the way that everything came together, and we were even joking, the purple and all the purple in the stadium because it was the Vikings, like there was something different about being there. And like I had anxiety like in my organs, like inside of me, like in every single time that I talk to people about it, I still keep getting, like Lydia and I were talking, and it was like, I got butterflies right now, don't you? It's like, yes, because so much, you're packing so many experiences and so many things happening into like, almost like has been like metaphorically like a hike for all these years and all these different things that have happened to this particular moment. So like we've been in emotional moments in the past, but we haven't experienced anything like
Not even close.
what we did this weekend. And it was,
I quit.
What?
Sorry.
he said,
I don't know,
he
we're
said
gonna-
to me, he goes,
I can't do this anymore.
well, no, he said the opposite.
This is my
He goes,
last year of coaching.
I feel like I just got back from vacation again, is what he said.
Yeah, I was like, I feel.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the vacation. There was no stress on the previous vacation, but when I came back, I was like, fuck, like fully rejuvenated. Like, yeah, it was special.
So now we head to Madison.
Yes.
What
Yeah,
are you
that's
What are you
wild.
feeling about that currently? Like, I know we haven't debriefed yet. We'll do that next week. But like, how are you feeling about that thing at the end of July?
Honestly, I keep saying honestly, like I lie. I don't know why. It's
full of
my
shit.
opener.
We
But
all
it's
have
apparently
the
my
words that
go-to.
we say way too many
Good
times
Lord.
on podcasts. It just happens too.
No, I mean, even the year before, like 2 years ago, probably, when I watched the games, I'm just thinking like, I can beat her. I can do better than that. Like, and I think all of the steps in between are not my jam. They weren't. Sorry, they weren't in the moment. Like, it was more of like, how am I going to get from here to the games without having to somehow, miraculously get to the spot that I need to. So I'm pumped. I'm so excited to go there and actually like be able to showcase what I am capable of, because I think that in that moment and in that scenario, it's not going to be like my first time at regionals where I'm like, I want to see how well I stack up next to these guys. It's like, I want to see how many of these girls I can beat, because I know I can.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited. I'm also like, there's a little bit of a weird situation with me right now, because Austin and I have been in this together from the start, and I've seen him work his ass off, and I know how bad he wants it. So there's still a little part of me like that I'm so happy and I'm so proud of what I was able to do and that, but then it's also, there was a moment of me feeling a little guilty at the same time that I was able to qualify and he wasn't.
He wanted you to
But
qualify
I
more
know.
than he wanted to qualify. He was so
I know.
like seeing him after that final event. It was like we were sort of joking about whether he was excited that his prize was getting to do another competition in a few weeks, and he was just like, I mean, right now I don't fucking care. I don't care about
He
qualifying.
forgot that he had to do it like 4 times because he was
Yeah.
just he was excited for you.
So yeah, it's hard not to feel that way when you're in it with somebody for so long who's put in just as much work and wants it just as bad. But he makes it easier to not feel that way. Like, why the fuck do you feel guilty? Like, you shouldn't feel that way at all. And yeah, so I mean, he's great. I obviously want him to succeed as much as I do. So we have to get him through that last chance qualifier. But he got me through that moment of feeling a little guilty about it. Just being Austin. But yeah, no, other than that, I'm so excited. I feel like I get more and more excited every day, like waking up and realizing like next week I get to start that training and what that looks like. And I'm actually really excited to swim every second of every day of my life. Whereas like, I don't know, last week I was probably afraid to jump in the water. So
It's a good sign.
yeah, it's fun to, now that I've experienced being able to put work in and see huge improvements on certain things like running and all that, like I know that I just need to put in the work and I'll see that and I'll reap the benefits from it. And it's much easier to
That's a huge-
dive
that's
into
a-
that and know that you're gonna get better if you do the work.
Yeah, that's super important, is like that validation that what you have been doing works. Like, it's one thing to do really well in a workout or an open workout or even like the open or something like that, but when the goal is what it was or what it is, it's you need that occasional like reminder that it's like, I'm doing the right thing. I just need to keep my head down and work, and good things can happen.
Yep.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed probably the longest podcast we've ever done, but the whole story was really important for me to tell, because, you basically want to end a podcast like this by saying thank you for letting us be part of it. Like, it has been amazing. It was amazing. It's going to continue to be. So hopefully everyone out there enjoyed it, and thank you to you specifically.
Thank you to you guys. I mean, you guys have been there literally from the beginning. And just the fact that you guys believe in me so much to help me and to be there for me, more specifically over the weekend, like nobody can replace the feeling that I felt seeing you guys on the other side. Oh.
I'm going to start crying. Stop it. We're going to end this podcast right now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the tier-free Granite Games recap with CrossFit Games athlete Caroline Conners. And thank you to our show sponsors, PureSpectrumCBD.com. Use the code word Misfit to save on your favorite CBD products. SharpenTheAxeCo.com. Use the code word Keala, Keala. Save 10% on your order. Donate 10% of that order to the Keala Foundation, or you can use code Carol and help Caroline Conners here. Her name actually is Caroline, for all the people that said I feel so happy for Carol in their text messages this weekend.
Daryl.
You can use code Carol to help her on her journey to Madison. Again, you use that code, she gets paid. It's a lot easier for her to keep training, keep working. Who else do we have? Properfuel.co. Use the code word Misfit to save on your very first jug of Proper Recovery.
High score.
Caroline took it between every event. We don't want to take credit for anything, but that formula must have helped her. Just, that's the slight edge. Obviously, it's not the work in the gym. It's the supplements.
I got it.
And MisfitAthletics.com, TeamMisfit.com, SugarWOD Marketplace to try any of our programs. 2 weeks, for free. I'm at Misfit Coach on Instagram. Slide into those DMs. Let me know what you thought of the episode, who you would like to hear next, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.